Welcome back to the Midnight Echo, a What's Good fan production. If you're tuning in right now, just know this one's for the dreamers, the overthinkers, and the ones out here wrestling with both their light and their darkness. This is episode 5, Vices and Visions. Tonight we ain't just talking inspiration. We're talking about the habits that hold us back, the visions that pull us forward. Echo in. What's good to my late nighters and what's good to my early morning grinders? It's your super producer, DJ Dex Double X, and this is What's Good Fam, the Midnight Echo. I want to go ahead and say a quick shout out to those that tapped in, listened to episode 4, the Late Night Creep, Ghost Mode Edition. Now, I'm pretty sure the title might have, had some people a little bit confused about what I was talking about, but that's why I went ahead and added the Ghost Mode Edition at the end of it, so y'all know I ain't talking about nothing, freaky or sexy. So, but I just want to say a quick shout out to those that stopped by and listened to the episodes. Those that stopped by and checked out the socials. I appreciate y'all for echoing in with me. I got some great conversations with people. I also posted this thread, and once we get to the end of the episode, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about that thread. But hey, I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody that's been also echoing in and checking out the Midnight Cruise playlist. I just dropped Midnight Cruise Volume 4. So, y'all make sure to check it out. Now, I know y'all hear the music playing in the background. One of my favorite lifestyle music artists, my man's Larry June, linked up with Cardo Got Wings and dropped this immaculate tape, Until Night Comes. So the track that's playing right now is, I guess it's supposed to be 5.0s in the city, but it's 50s in the city. But y'all get it. My man love them 5.0 Mustangs. And I came from the things hard, especially when you put them gold BBSs on it. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to my man Larry June, man. Good job, Larry. You're doing a great job. So, but I also want to give a quick shout out to those that are also supporting the pages as well, sharing the content. I appreciate y'all 100, man. So let me give y'all a round of claps. You know what I'm saying? 100 for everybody that's supporting me, everybody that's sharing my content, everybody that's coming to the pages, clicking on the likes and everything. I appreciate y'all 100. Big shout out to my little broski. Drag no, because he be showing me a lot of love too. I try to do the same back. So like I said, y'all make sure to go follow him. All right. All right, let's go ahead and just jump into this, man. We called this episode, I called this episode Vices and Visions. Now, for those that listen to the Late Night Creep Ghost Mode Edition, I wanted to touch on this subject, but I didn't want to get too deep into it. I feel like when it comes down to conversations like that, I would like to have that with other people. So that's why I encourage y'all to please echo in with me, man. Let me know what y'all think about what I'll be talking about. Any conversations is a good conversation as long as we keep it respectful, all right? But yeah, I kind of somewhat touched on this when I was talking about going ghost when you're trying to fix your life, when you're trying to get things back in order. Once you found, I guess, your calling in life, something you enjoy doing, something that that would change your life, but it's always going to be that one thing that holds you back. And that's always going to be your vices. Now, when I talk about vices, I ain't talking about just the typical, your drugs, your drinking, pornography. Those are good vices, and they can be very destructive vices. Habits you might have formed intentionally or unintentionally. Things that you do on a daily basis that you might not think is a vice or is a big deal until it comes time for you to try to quit doing that one specific thing. Now, when I mean certain vices, I mean things like, of course, the biggest thing that I feel like I do sometimes, hence with this podcast, procrastination. I know I have a very bad procrastination habit. And it's not because I'm lazy or just because I don't want to do it. It's, of course, adulting, adulting be adulting. So sometimes you just be tired. You don't want to do nothing. You just got off work. You just got through busting an 8-hour day, a 12-hour day. You have certain things you need to do once you get home, but you just don't feel like doing it because you're so tired. Even when it comes down to my off days, I ain't trying to do nothing. I'm just trying to sit at home, maybe sit in bed, just watch some Netflix, maybe order some Uber Eats or some DoorDash and just chill. But I know I eventually force myself up and go take care of or handle what I need to handle. Now, there's a big difference between procrastination and just being lazy. Now, of course, we all have our lazy moments. We all have just those days you don't feel like doing nothing. Like I just said before, you just want to lay in the bed, watch some Netflix, and just chill. But when you start to realize it's starting to become a more and more everyday type of thing, that's when you might want to go ahead and pump the brakes. Like, all right, hold on now. I know I just can't be sitting in this bed every weekend doing the same old, same old. Now, quick shout out to my introverts because I am introverted, and when I tell you I love being at home by myself, any moment I can get to just be at home by myself doing whatever I want to do, I'm going to take it. If I know I have days I need to rest, of course I'm going to rest. But I also told myself on those days where I know I got to get in the full grind mode, I'm going to get up. I'm not going to sit in this crib all day just eating junk food, watch TV. I'm going to, do something useful with myself. Go hit the gym. Study up on some things, learn some new habits, learn how to just take yourself out of whatever mode or function you're in and do something different with your life. Now, when it comes down to vices, it's not just all about procrastination. It's a multitude of vices. It could be anything from a negative mindset, always speaking negative about yourself and speaking negative about everyday life. It could also be people pleasing. You have some people who just can't go a day without trying to please people, be nice, be overly nice and overly sharing and overly caring. And of course, the biggest one being social media. I, for one, can say I am guilty, even though I have to use social media to promote this podcast and of course get the followers because, eventually I want to get paid off this, But social media is a big thing because what was that term? Doom scrolling. I can say I have been guilty of that. 1 minute I'm in the bed at 2:30. I look up, it's almost 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, what have I been doing? But I have formed new habits that can keep me off of social media. So that way I'm not distracted by, what somebody might have commented, somebody might have posted, what somebody might have sent me a reel or whatever. I just want to be able to be focused on what I'm focused on, and I will get to it later. So now a good question that came about when I was thinking about these vices. One question just stood out in my mind, and I really had to sit down and think about it because I also had to think about times to where I might have had some vices or a bad habit that I knew I needed to stop, but I just couldn't. And the question that was posed was, are our vices coping mechanisms or cages? And that really stuck with me for a minute because we all have vices. We all have little small habits that we think are not too big of a deal. We have a handle on them, something that we don't think that personally affects our lives, whether we want to admit it or not. And I don't know if I can consider this a vice. Well, I kind of can because one of my vices I had, like I just told you before, was procrastination. Always waiting to the last minute to do something or get something done, knowing I could have did it either hours, days, weeks, or months ago. But I've gotten a good handle on that because it does feel a lot better knowing that once the due date comes, all you got to do is just turn that thing in, or all you got to do is just say, I'm finished or done. So, but another one that I did have a problem with was being negative, having a negative mindset. And what I mean by a negative mindset, it could be any number of things. Like somebody could be having a conversation with me and, me thinking I'm just keeping it real or being honest. I might say something, but it leans more towards the negative side because, I was one of those people I used to think, like, man, this is life, man. It's going to happen one way or another. So it is what it is, But I had to gradually get myself out of that mindset. And the reason why I say that is because not only did I have that type of mindset, but, I had a lot of, I hate to say hard-headed vices. I was the type of person, I thought I knew it all. There was nothing else left to learn. It is what it is, I was just the type of person, oh, for real? And then, somebody might try to show me something. And if I don't know how to do it, man, it is what it is. I don't know how to do that shit. And just leave like it is. Just give no type of effort whatsoever, real small-minded. I had no type of a growth mindset. I was just like, yo, I'm just trying to wake up, go to work, and survive the day. Real survival mode, you know. But eventually, with me having that type of a mindset, it caused me to miss out on a lot of opportunities just because I didn't put in the real effort for it. And I've shouted out this person before on the previous podcast. Shout out to my man Shaquille Wiggins, aka Shaq the Shark. My man has kept in contact with me throughout the years. A big what's up to you, bro, and I appreciate everything. And he's always tried to put me on the things. It was just the fact that I had no real growth mindset to really sit down and learn this, because I could sit down and think about the end result, like, oh man, I'm gonna be making all this money, I'm gonna be doing this, but of course I'm so focused on the finish line, I'm not thinking about the road that lies ahead of me to get to that finish line. And sometimes I would be like, yeah man, I'm gonna do it, man, I'm gonna try it, and give it one try and just give up. And I hated it, and it used to make me so mad, so it would also take me into that negative mindset, because I would be upset with myself, but at the same time I'm also like, see, told you that wasn't gonna work. I don't even know why you did that. And just a lot of the self-doubt and a lot of the just beating on myself because I couldn't get it right the first time, which also eventually led to other vices as well, like me just not taking care of myself, eating fast food almost every day, feeling like a failure just because I couldn't get it right, always doubting myself, always putting myself in a bubble, always just trying to keep myself away from people because I just felt like I could never get it right. One thing I can say I also used as a vice was social media, which consisted of me just opening up Instagram, scrolling all day, trying to forget about what has happened, just liking pictures and just going all over YouTube, just looking at silly, stupid stuff instead of actually being like, you know what, let me give this another shot. So one thing that really clicked for me when I realized what my ultimate vice was, there was a friend of mine that I used to talk to. And, shout out to you, by the way, brother. We was having a conversation, about businesses and ideas that we had that we wanted to do. But, of course, because of timing and our job schedule, wasn't able to do it. Now, I was saying all this, but he wasn't. He already was running a business. He had other ideas, made beats on the side and everything. So, I'm giving this brother praise. I'm like, man, yeah, man, you lucky, man. You out here doing it, man. You ain't got to worry about this job after a while. He kind of looked at me strange, like, what you mean I'm lucky? I'm like, you lucky, man. Like, look at what you're doing. Like, you just, you got this going on today. He's like, yeah, man, but this isn't luck, man. This is real hard work. I'm like, yeah, man, I get that. But, I'm just saying, like, to be at where you at right now, man, that takes a lot. So, I didn't mean no disrespect. I was just, thanking the brother for his accomplishment. So he's just like, yo, well, check this out. Like, you telling me all these ideas that you got and how you're trying to do this and do that, but have you started any of it? And I looked at him like, nah, man, I can't, because, right now, I got this going on, and, I'm giving excuses as per usual. So he was just like, so let me ask you this. You put in an application to get this job, right? I was like, yeah, of course. Like, so they trained you on how to do this job, right? I'm like, yeah. And he was like, after a while, it got easy, right? Because it was hard at first. I was like, yeah, it was hard at first, but yeah, this is what training's for. You got to get used to it, right? He's like, there you go. So he was like, now it's easy. I'm like, yeah, of course now it's easy because I get it now. I understand it. He just kind of looked at me. I'm just, looking back at him like, I mean, is there more? Are you going to give me an answer? What you trying to tell me? He's like, see, I think I see what your problem is. And he was like, you're comfortable. I'm like, what you mean I'm comfortable? You're comfortable as in you're comfortable with what you're doing right now, right? Or as far as you just coming and work this job. I was like, yeah, because I'm making a paycheck and, I'm making a living. He's like, okay, so with all that I just told you, with all that logic, why not apply that same logic to what you're trying to do with your life? And I kind of stopped and looked at him for a minute like, wait, what? That's when it hit me. I was like, oh, he's like, see, then that's your problem right there. you like things the easy way. Like, of course it's going to be hard, but then of course once it gets easy, you just want to keep it that way. He's like, no, man, apply that same logic to your life, man, because it's never going to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. He's like, no, man, get out your comfort zone, man, because I see you got, you got the ideas for it, you got the talent for it. Why not go and do it? And I really couldn't give him an answer back because I was just kind of sitting there stunned, like, why didn't I think of that? It really messed me up for a minute because you're stuck in the endless loop of coming to work, working 8, 10, 12 hours, going home, doing it again, doing this for 6 days, getting 1 day off. It had gotten easy to me because I was so used to it, just having the same routine every day. It just it really scrambled my brain right there because, as I said in previous episodes, it was like, a light bulb went off, like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Why haven't I done that? And it was, of course, because of, the failures that I have endured before in life that I just tried maybe one time and said, forget it. I don't even want to deal with it no more. As long as I got a paycheck, I don't care about this stuff. But it was good words of encouragement for me to be able to be like, you know what, even though I might fail, at least I can say, hey, I tried, which was also around the time I was introduced to the lifestyle music, which also followed into my ventures, whether it being with t-shirts or starting the podcast or starting other ventures that I'm working on. It just helped me understand that, of course, life is going to have its ups and downs. I can't always just go into the corner and, sit there and be negative and be hard on myself. Life is full of failures. I just have to keep going. And sometimes we all have that struggle of just trying to keep going. It gets hard. It does. Sometimes you want to give up. It's easier to give up, but hey, you got to just keep thugging it out. And one thing I can say is, when it does come down to our vices, we do have a habit of sometimes falling back into old patterns. It's that trap. It's that fear of the unknown, because you stepping out of that comfort zone, you knowing that this can happen any one of ways. Either you make it or you fail. It's the fear of like, man, I don't want to lose it all and start all over again. I just want to be able to just do this the right way and not have to fall on my face. And there are some who will get lucky enough to get it right the first time. But as far as a lot of us, we're going to fail. We're going to fall. We're going to keep falling and failing. But we're also going to keep learning. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard. It's going to be aggravating. It's going to be upsetting. But it's always going to be dark at first until you get to that finish line where it gets bright. But you always got to keep going. And, I ain't trying to preach to y'all, but that's what I had to tell myself. And that's what I used to have to tell myself when I would get upset and get frustrated about things. I have to keep going, okay? Learn from this. Where did I fail? Where did I mess up? How can I make sure I don't run into this again, and just keep going, such as life. When it comes down to a vision, you have to have that type of mindset because it's going to have its ups and downs. Which is why I liked the lifestyle music so much, because of course my man Ellie Dollar, my favorite artist once again, he had this song called Dreaming. And in the hook, he says, and I was like, you know what, he's right, man. I gotta be out here making moves, man. I gotta do something because I just can't keep doing this every day, man. Especially just the knowing of, I know I could be doing so much better right now. So I had to really kick that vice of just being lazy and step out of my comfort zone. Stop doing things the easy way. I gotta get dirty, man. I gotta do the hard stuff. I don't want to do it. I gotta do the hard stuff. And there's always going to be a lesson at the end of it. I also knew I had to discipline myself. And one thing I can say is discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. It's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It's really hard because it's so easy just to fall back into old habits. But really having the discipline, tell yourself, like, I don't want to go back to that no more. I want to be different. I want to start new. It was hard because there were habits that I was so used to doing that I had to rewire my mind to not do it anymore. things that I used to do that I enjoyed. But I was like, man, nah, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep worrying about these video games. I can't keep worrying about what's going on social media because it's not doing anything for me. And if I do go on social media, I need to be learning more instead of just wasting the whole night scrolling and looking at stupid reels, or actually use my phone to make money. And that's word to Aristotle Investments, man. Shout out to you, by the way, brother. When he said that, I was like, you know what? He's right. We use our phones so much. Why not use it to make money? But going back to episode 4, I had to go ghost. And with me going ghosts, I said this also in episode 4. When I went ghost, I cut almost every major distraction in my life. The social medias, more reading, more writing, journaling a little bit, using my phone for more learning rather than just doom scrolling. Now, one advice that I spoke about on the previous episode, and I guess it also ties in to when you go in ghost mode, is cutting people out of your life, whether it's exiting yourself out of a toxic or bad relationship or situationship. And it just doesn't have to be relationships. It could also be the circle of people that you hang around with, your friends, who can also influence your vices or picking up on bad habits that you normally wouldn't do, especially those who don't have any emotion, those who don't want to aim for more, aim for better. They just want to stay stagnant. We've all been in situations where we've had to cut off a good group of people that we've known for so long. Does it hurt? Yeah, it does. But sometimes you have to do what's best for yourself so that way you can elevate yourself to the next level. I ain't gonna give y'all the whole preaching about it because we all know when it's time to start cutting people off, we know we got to start doing that just so we can see better and do better. But when it even comes down to you doing this, and one thing I see a lot of people doing, especially all over social media, a lot of people like to brag about how, you know what I'm saying, I'm doing this behind the scenes, I'm doing that, but really have nothing going on, but just, doing like 95% of us working a 9-to-5 job, and there's nothing wrong with that, get your hustle on. But, if you really have something going on, if you really have something that you're working on, I feel like that's not something you want to brag about every day. Some people do. But I'm the type of person like, I'm moving in silence right now. So when I'm ready to pop out, I'm going to pop out. So if this is something you're going to do, this is also part of your discipline. You got to stay locked in on this and you got to stay focused on this, because when it's all said and done, you got to ask yourself, what's more important, my vices or my vision? Which one you're going to feed into more? And depending on which one you do feed into more, that's going to determine the direction of your life. So if anything, stay locked in on what your goals is, and just know discipline is the love language of your higher self. Now, to those that are really suffering from very serious vices, such as drug use, alcoholism, I encourage you to really get help. And of course, I know easier said than done, but I encourage you to really seek help. Just sometimes it's hard. Like I said, it's hard because how strong your vices have a hold on you. But just always know there are people that always want to see you doing better and people who want to see you being better. So you have to really ask yourself the same questions. Which one am I going to continue to feed into? My vices or my vision? So, especially when it comes down to porn too. And I know a lot of people ain't happy about this, having to put in the driver's license or put in your info just to go on these websites. But I feel like that's a good thing too as well for the kids, even though I'm pretty sure there's going to be other ways people will be able to get around all this. So all I'm saying is, hey, for those that are struggling with porn and now have to go through these type of things just to see it, hey, maybe this might be a good turning point for you. Maybe you might be able to say, hey, there are other things to do besides sitting in front of this computer and look at naked women all day or be on my phone all day doing the same. So, shout out to those who have gone through these vices and we're able to kick the habits. Y'all are strong people in my book, so all claps around for y'all, man. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard battle, but you kept going, persevered. Nothing but all around claps for all of y'all, man. For those who are just starting their journeys, same thing. You know what? Give y'all another round of applause. For those that are starting the journey, I get it. It's gonna get hard. You're gonna fall back into temptation. You're gonna, be bouncing back and forth. But for those that are continuing to fight the good battle, man, just keep going. So listen, for those who end up listening to this episode and y'all want to echo in with your boy, man, make sure y'all find me on the socials and if you want to have a little conversation about advice that you had that you knew that was blocking your way to getting to where you was trying to go, you want to talk about it, feel free to DM me. All right. Now, I ain't got to post it in my stories or anything, but if you feel free and want to do that, that's fine with me. If you want to keep it private, that's fine with me as well. So, make sure to look me up on these socials. All right. So I'm about to get ready to drop those socials. But before I do, big shout out to my man, Mr. Cameron Walker. He just welcomed another life into this world, man. Big shout out to you and the missus, man. So happy for y'all, man. So just want to give y'all a quick shout out, man. Raise that little king well, man. So all right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into these socials. So, make sure y'all follow me on these socials, man. DM me. See, there are people who are listening to the episodes, people who are following the pages. Feel free to DM me. And I got some great responses for some of the things I posted, and we're gonna get into that in a minute once I start dropping these socials. All right. So y'all can find me on Instagram as What's Good Fam Podcast. That's What's Good Fam _podcast. You can also find me on Facebook. Now, the page is titled What's Good Fam Podcast page. All right. So y'all make sure to look me up on Facebook as well. All right. So y'all can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, What's Good Fam Entertainment. You can also find me on Threads as What's Good Fam _podcast. Now, speaking of Threads, I posted this thread and it was pertaining to the lifestyle music, and I got some feedback from a couple of people. So shout out to y'all. So this was a thread I posted, and I will repost it in my stories for those who want to go check it out. Or like I said, follow me on Threads. All right. So I said, let's be honest. The only reason the lifestyle music is gaining momentum is only because that trap music is dead. And I said, echo in. Now, my man's I'm the Fat Boy. He says, give it a decade and people will be back to calling anything that isn't drug dealing music corny again. So I'm enjoying the music now. So, yo, man, you're right on that one. So 100 to you, man. And of course, shout out to my little broski Drag Known for also sharing and reposting it, man. So just thanks to him doing it, I got a little bit over 50 views. I know that might not seem much, but man, little broski, I appreciate you, man. So shout out to you, all right? And shout out to the other ones that also stopped by and liked the comment, man. I appreciate y'all, all right? So we're also going to move forward to on YouTube. Now, you can find me on YouTube as What's Good Fam, The Midnight Echo. I also post the podcast episodes on here as well. So if you can't find me on none of the streaming platforms, you can always find me on YouTube, all right? And last but not least, we also have TikTok, where you can find me as What's Good Fam 21. I post my clips. I post, little artwork. I also post questions, all right? So make sure y'all follow the pages, man. Echo in with your boy, all right? Now, for my lovers of the lifestyle music, I'm still dropping the Midnight Cruise volumes 1, 2, 3, and we are currently on 4. So, hey, I just want to go ahead and make a quick announcement real quick. So I have decided to start a brand new playlist called The Midnight of Echoes. As you might have guessed, yes, it's going to be a slow jams playlist. All right. So it's going to have everything from the early 90s to what's current going on right now. So for those who are very big R&B fans, make sure to echo in with me. All right. So we can put a great playlist together, man. I got some good songs I like. You might even put me onto some new songs as well. All right. So make sure y'all echo in with me. All right. Do not forget to follow me on Spotify. All right. Find me on there. All right. Midnight Cruise Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4 currently out on Spotify right now. I'm making my way to Apple Music, so all my Apple Music fans, be patient, all right? So make sure y'all check in with me on this, all right? So tonight's episode wasn't just a vibe, it was a mirror. So before you tap out, ask yourself, what's holding you back? And what are you willing to sacrifice to move forward? Don't forget to echo in with me, man. I dropped all the socials, so make sure y'all DM me, all right? Drop a comment, share the episode, and if this one spoke to you, pass it along to someone who might need to hear it. This has been episode 5, Vices and Visions. It's your super producer, DJ Dex XX. I'm out, but I'm never far. Y'all be safe.